This is not getting discussed on the mainstream media. Not only are they wrong legally, but the fact that they would do this is outrageous. This is an overreaction and really nonsense. How would you react if this was your son or your daughter? It's the offense of knowing the truth. It's the offense of having an alternate worldview. Saying God bless you to someone is not a violation of the law.
Welcome to the broadcast, everyone. This is a somber broadcast as we commemorate right now the third year of incarceration in Iran for Pastor Saeed Abedini. In this broadcast, we're going to retrace some of what has happened. We'll be taking some phone calls as well. We'll also give you the behind the scenes of what we're doing on multiple fronts to secure his release. We've got multiple governmental negotiations going on right now. So your prayers for Pastor Saeed will make a huge difference as we try to move the situation forward. Very difficult since the United States has concluded its agreement with Iran. The leverage point, if you will, has been removed. While we are commemorating this third anniversary of his incarceration, our prayers for him and his family go out. We encourage you to do the same thing. But let me ask you also to pray for our lawyers as we develop different strategies to work the release here. This is, as I said, it's been complicated by the fact that Iran has a deal with the United States, and unfortunately, the president did not secure the release of Saeed Abedini or the other Americans. So we're at a critical crossroads. But I also want to assure you that we are moving on other fronts globally. Our office in Russia is engaged. Our offices in the Middle East are engaged. Our offices in Washington, D.C., of course, are engaged in this very, very significant issue. Here's a quick trailer from our movie, Let My People Go.
Our dad used to be here swinging us in circles, and that's our favorite part. My favorite page is this one, because my dad's holding me and it's been a long time since he did.
New concerns for the safety of American pastor Saeed Abedini, sentenced this week to 8 years in Iran's most brutal prison, accused of illegally practicing his Christian faith.
Religious persecution is a situation where your life is literally put in jeopardy simply because of what you believe.
And I use the term religious cleansing now.
We can see the imagery. We can see the brutality.
It's like it's open season on Christians.
Asia Bibi is a Christian woman on death row.
Pastor Youssef Nader Khani, when he was in prison because of his work as a Christian.
They kept coming to the computer and saying, "Mommy, can we see Daddy? Can we hear his voice?" And I had to tell them that he was in prison because he loved Jesus.
Don't forget us. We're your brothers and sisters. Please don't leave us. We need you.
We want you to talk about what you will be doing to pray for Saeed Abedini. There's vigils going on around the country, and we're going to be taking your comments on the phones. If you're praying for Saeed and his family, call us and let us know what you're doing. If you're concerned about the situation with Saeed, we want to hear from you in Iran. All right, we're going to go ahead and take some phone calls here. Let's take line one. We've got calls coming in. Let's
sure,
do that.
Lindsay's calling from Boise, Idaho. Lindsay, welcome to Jay Sekulow.
Of course,
Live.
Boise is the hometown of Saeed and Nagme and Rebecca and Jacob Abedini. Go ahead, Lindsay.
Hi, my comment is that I was scheduled to run a 5K with my mom who's coming in from out of town, and when I found out that the vigil was also on Saturday, I decided that I'm just going to get a group of us during that race, encourage as many racers as possible to hurry over to the state capitol and participate in this prayer vigil, because
what a great idea.
As Americans and Christians, we have our lives in relative comfort and peace, and they continue. If we can take an hour of our lives and band together and become prayer warriors and show support for Saeed and what he is experiencing on behalf of all Christians in the world, it would send such a message that our lives go on but
Yep.
he is in pain, and my heart just hurts for him right now.
Well,
And
Lindsay,
if we're-
let me say this. This is a great idea of getting people to go right from that 5K charity run over to the prayer vigil. And I know, Logan, we're hearing from people literally on Facebook and Periscope all over the country, like Lindsay, that are going to be attending these prayer vigils. I mean, we've got a lot of cities that are being given to us.
Coast to coast, people are talking about this, from California to New Hampshire and everywhere in between and up and down. It seems like everyone is really in this. And if they want to find out where their nearest vigil is, you can go to saeedvigil.com. It'll tell you exactly where you can do it. It's an ACLJ Be Heard Project site. I mean, I'm looking on the list right now, everywhere from little towns in Alabama to Los Angeles and everywhere in between.
And Jordan, these vigils do make a difference because they get picked up on local news, and that becomes important. Is keeping this, you keep them alive by keeping them in the news. That's a big part of what you have to do here, is the advocacy. To keep the client here, Saeed Abedini, alive, you need to keep it in the news. These vigils become a focal point for keeping it in the news in the local community, and that helps too.
That's right. It's not just a national news story or international news story, but there's something that people can hold on to close to home and be physically involved. And so you've got over 800 vigils happening in 38 different countries. And right here at home, I mean, hundreds of vigils in every city you can imagine. People can still add at saeedvigil.com. And because of that, it drives attention. And that kind of attention, it's not done in vain. I mean, it's done because it's necessary to keep this on the minds of world leaders and in the news.
Yeah, we're in the last few days here of the month. The ACLJ about to set a record for this month, a support to the ACLJ. You can make that happen by going to aclj.org. Your online contributions make a huge difference. aclj.org. If you haven't signed the Saeed Abedini petition, do it today at aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. That's aclj.org or 877-989-2255.
American pastor Saeed Abedini has now been imprisoned in Iran for 3 years. 3 years without his family. 3 years of beatings and abuse. This past weekend, millions of people around the globe held prayer vigils for Pastor Saeed. More than 900 vigils in more than 40 countries. This week, the focus is on the United Nations in New York. Among the world leaders in the spotlight, Iran's President Rouhani. The world is watching, and the media asking questions. When will Pastor Saeed and the other imprisoned Americans be returned home? Stand with the American Center for Law and Justice. Keep the pressure on Iran and President Rouhani. Dozens of countries around the globe are advocating for the release of Pastor Saeed. It's time the Obama administration brought these Americans home. Call now, 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
Welcome back to the broadcast, everyone. We're talking about the case of Saeed Abedini. We are one day from the third commemoration of his incarceration now in Raja Shah prison. Do we have a picture? We're able to find the pictures of those? We do. I want to show this to our audience that's watching via Periscope and Facebook. These are the prisons. I mean, so these are not American prisons. I mean, these are awful. And the reality is, Jordan, he's in the worst of the prisons.
Yeah, that's right. And so he was actually moved from a prison outside of, right in Tehran, Evin prison, to Raja Shah, a couple of hours outside of Tehran, and much more violent criminals. So Evin prison, which is, it's not good to note that it's mostly political prisoners and prisoners of conscience, but that certainly changes your prison environment when you're not around necessarily violent criminals. And so obviously it's not a good situation to be in. But when you add that element in, you also have to be very concerned, as we are every day, about surviving normal prison life. And even we hear stories about here at home in how prisons, there's violent situations right here in the United States. Imagine a prison, a third world style prison under a repressive regime.
Hey, folks, we've got a movie out that describes a lot of this called LetMyPeopleGoMovie.com. The movie's called Let My People Go, but if you go to LetMyPeopleGoMovie.com, we will go ahead and you can view it absolutely free. And Logan, you said, what, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands have viewed it already, right?
Absolutely. It's been out since a little bit earlier this year, but it's a really great synopsis on what the whole issue is. It's a really great way to see it. Again, it's absolutely free at LetMyPeopleGoMovie.com. It's about 90 minutes. It's a full-length documentary film, so you get to hear about other stories, not just Saeed, but Saeed is obviously kind of a focal point throughout the film.
Yeah, LetMyPeopleGoMovie.com. Let's go ahead and take a phone call. We'll take some comments as well.
All right, let's go back to the phones. Michelle is calling from Gresham, Oregon. You're on Jay Sekulow Live.
Hi, Michelle.
Well, hello. Hi, how are you?
Good.
Good. I just had a quick comment. I just wanted to thank you and Nazmi for the Be Heard Project and the Save Saeed Vigil. The websites there made it really easy to put a vigil together.
Look, our team, I'll let you get back to the vigil in a second. Our team, thanking me is great, but really the thank you goes to our media team that developed that site. They've done a great job on that. The men and women working in our media department, a lot of which are in the room right now with us as we're filming for TV, but in our social media department as well. And the Be Heard Project, it was interesting you said that, Michelle, because, Logan, that was something you launched how many years ago initially? It was on the pro-life issue. How many? Was
Six or 7 years ago, I'd say, and then it kind of was rebooted when this sort of persecuted church sort of topic became something that everyone was aware of and everyone started talking about. And we're really happy to see it continue. Again, as these sort of vigils spread, there's also vigils online. If for some reason there's not one in your area, there's ones you can join online and be a part of that as well at SaeedVigil.com. Again, most likely there is one in your area. Within 20 minutes, I'd say there's probably one in your area. If I'm looking at this list, there doesn't seem to be one area that's not covered.
BeHeardProject.com. Let's go ahead and go ahead and finish, Michelle. I'm sorry. You said you're holding a vigil this Sunday?
Yeah. Last week we dedicated our service to Saeed's story, and we used some very powerful excerpts from some of the interviews and letters from Pastor Saeed and updates and kind of did some role plays, and it was extremely powerful.
Great.
We're going to hold the vigil tomorrow and dedicating the following day's service again to the persecuted.
Well, Michelle,
church.
I appreciate that. I know the family does. And Jordan, as you just said, I want you to reiterate this. And by the way, I'm holding the last few of the letters, 263,000 letters. Each one with someone else's name on it. I mean, these are all individual. So when you sign those petitions, you're asking, do they matter? Do we have a picture of those going up to the I want to show the boxes being sent out here because, folks, that's just some of the ones. That's the last batch going up to the United Nations. 263,000 of these have been sent. So that is keeping him alive. And, Jordan, that's a big part of this is keeping these vigils going, keeping this kind of discussion going so that you keep them alive while we work on their release.
That's absolutely right. And people have a unique opportunity this weekend. Over 800 vigils happening on Saturday, tomorrow marking the 3rd anniversary of Saeed's imprisonment. And these are happening in over 38 countries. And so people, this is a way to, and it's hundreds more than last year, and it's really a way for people to show that solidarity, to come together in prayer. And people ask all the time on this broadcast, what else can they do? This is something you can physically go and do and be part of.
Let's go ahead and take some more calls. Who do we have next?
We're going to go to Jerry, who's calling from Jacksonville, Florida. She's hosting her own vigil, I believe.
Great.
So, Jerry, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Hi, Jerry.
Thank you. Thank you for all that you and your team are doing. It's inspirational for Christians to know that they have somebody fighting for them.
I appreciate that.
And Nagame is such a strong woman of God and her husband. And I encourage all Christians to go to the vigils wherever they are. I am honored having one here in Jacksonville, Florida.
Great. That's on the list. I just looked. You can find that and other vigils that are happening literally everywhere across the globe.
And you're getting comments from our folks on Facebook and Periscope that they've got literally all over the country?
It's all over the country in almost every major market, as well as little markets. Yeah, hundreds at least.
Jordan, it'd be helpful here to explain what we're doing with the governmental actors, whether it's the Holy See is recognized as a state, but also other parties we're dealing with right now to get the scope of what we're doing, because we lost a lot of leverage when this Iran deal was cut without a release of the Americans.
Absolutely, because ultimately, these being Americans, it is going to be up to the U.S. government now more than ever with this bilateral dialogue that exists between Iran and the United States. The fact that we're sitting down at the table, and we have been for now more than a year, they've negotiated this comprehensive nuclear deal, and so it will ultimately fall on the United States. But that doesn't mean the international community can't play a key role. So whether it's the United Nations itself as a international institution or representatives from different countries. So we have 67 global parliamentarians, leaders from different countries, who signed out a letter to the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament just this week demanding the release of Pastor Saeed. They come from almost 50 different countries. So 67 parliament members from around the world.
Big deal.
From nearly 50 different countries.
So our team is working. Tiffany Barron and Jordan Than are working on this on the legal side. We've got Skip Ash, of course, is our senior counsel, working on this on the global side as well. I mean, we've got a lot of resources at the ACLJ working on this. Your prayers, though, make a huge difference. These prayer vigils, and by the way, if you're watching this after the prayer vigil takes place, that doesn't stop you from having a prayer vigil with your community or your church next week, next month, until Saeed's release. We think that's an important part of this.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on a specific day. Obviously, this is the one day of the year that everyone gets together to have these prayer vigils, because it does mark the years in prison that Saeed has been in, but that doesn't mean your prayers are any less important on any other day. So it is great to get your church involved still in this issue and continue the fight and continue, like I said, continue the prayers.
All right, let's go ahead and take some more calls.
Let's go to Jeff, who's actually also calling from Jacksonville, Florida, but ties in a little bit to a topic we had earlier. Jeff, welcome to Jay Sekulow Live.
Hi, Jeff.
Hi, how's it going?
Good.
Thank you for taking my call.
Glad to do it.
I'll be succinct and concise. The arrest, incarceration, and torture of this American Christian pastor is just another classic example of why the Sharia law is not compatible with the United States Constitution. Lack of freedom of religion. Thank you.
Well, you're right. I'm holding a book that we've written called Sharia in America, and actually it may become part of a bigger book that we're going to do next year with Iran and Sharia and the export. In the book, we actually draw that example. In the United States, if you change religions, we call it the free exercise of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly. If you do that under Sharia, it's called the death penalty. I mean, it's that significant. So, folks, we want to encourage you to understand the difference of this, and that's why we've got all these resources available, and we've got some of those resources up at aclj.org right now. By the way, if you haven't signed that petition for Saeed, do it now at aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. We want to encourage you to call us wherever you're calling from. We want to know what you're going to be doing for Saeed and the vigils this weekend. So we just want to hear where you're from. Same thing on Facebook and Periscope. Let Logan know where you're coming in from. That's really important. You're getting it from all over.
Yeah, from all over the country, all over the world as well.
The movie is called Let My People Go. You can go to letmypeoplegomovie.com. That's an easy way to get information and to learn about this issue of the persecuted church. It has Saeed's case in it, but others as well. Letmypeoplegomovie.com. And also, I'm going to encourage you to go to aclj.org or call us at 1-877-989-2255 and add your name to that petition for Saeed's release that we're sending to the UN. We already have 263,000 letters, 1,135,000 signatures. Very, very important. aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. In the next segment of the broadcast, I want to know what you all are doing, what your thoughts and prayers are on Facebook as well. Let me encourage you also, folks, pray for Saeed Abedini. We've been asking you to pray for Naghmeh and the kids, but pray for Saeed. This is a very serious situation. Your prayers help keep him alive. Keeping this out in the public helps keep him alive. Talking about it keeps him alive. Sign that petition for Saeed today, aclj.org or 1-877-989-2255. And I also urge you to support the work of the ACLJ at aclj.org.
American pastor Saeed Abedini has now been imprisoned in Iran for 3 years. 3 years without his family. 3 years of beatings and abuse. This past weekend, millions of people around the globe held prayer vigils for Pastor Saeed, more than 900 vigils in more than 40 countries. This week, the focus is on the United Nations in New York. Among the world leaders in the spotlight, Iran's President Rouhani. The world is watching, and the media asking questions. When will Pastor Saeed and the other imprisoned Americans be returned home? Stand with the American Center for Law and Justice. Keep the pressure on Iran and President Rouhani. Dozens of countries around the globe are advocating for the release of Pastor Saeed. It's time the Obama administration brought these Americans home. Call now 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.
prayer vigils going on from coast to coast. I want Jordan to take a moment here. Describe again the importance of the prayer meetings, the prayer vigils, the getting this in the local media, the importance of this.
Sure. It's another way to restart the conversation about Saeed and reminds people who may not be as up to date as you are on all of these global issues and specifically on Saeed's story. Maybe they remember a vigil from last year or they heard about the story months ago, but they haven't had an update. It's a great time. And so over 800 of these vigils happening around the world in 38 different countries. And you can go to Saeed Vigil. It's SAEED Vigil.com to find the vigil closest to you. That's happening. And again, this third anniversary of Saeed's imprisonment. So this is an important time to bring attention.
And no matter when you're viewing this, let me encourage you, you can have that vigil anytime. So there's a particular date because of the third-year commemorative event of his incarceration. But the fact of the matter is that you could do this at any time. We encourage you to keep this in front of your church and your friends. And let's go ahead and take some comments and calls.
Let's go to Kurt, who's calling from Wichita, Kansas. Kurt, welcome to Sekulow Live. You're on the air.
Hi, Kurt.
Hey, hi. Thank you. And thanks so much for your guys' ministry and what you guys do.
Thank you.
Hey, this is more of a comment than anything else. The prayer vigil is outstanding. Scripture tells us that when believers come together in prayer and they pray in the will of God, that He'll hear us, that He'll deliver it, and I'm confident that will happen. The thing to me that is bothersome about this, though, is that it's coming to this point that we're having to have prayer vigils in order to get Saeed and the others released, when this should have been done long ago. We should never even be to this point that the negotiations took place and these people are still behind bars and still sit there today, and that we're having to call to the spirituality of the believers and everybody else.
Well, I mean, but Kurt, this is the situation we've got. I mean, I was hoping and praying that we'd get a release as the negotiations with the Iranians went forward. I still think the deal is horrible, made worse by the fact that the incarceration of the Americans, all 4 Americans, continues. But I mean, look, we've got to. Prayer is an important tool here, and we want to utilize that because you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people will be participating in this. And Logan's been getting reports from Periscope and Facebook. We've been getting them on radio as well, literally from coast to coast and around the world.
Right. Someone just chimed in from Farmville, North Carolina. Literally just came by our messages here from who is fasting and praying is going to have also be a part of a vigil tomorrow. It is interesting. Phoenix, Arizona. There's a lot that just keep rolling. Middleton, Ohio, and Des Moines, Iowa. People just keep pouring out there where they're calling in from or where they're commenting in from about these vigils. We actually have a call, too, that's related to that. Let's go to Melissa from Kentucky. Welcome to Sekulow Live.
Yeah, hey, Melissa, you're watching via Periscope.
Periscope and actually Facebook. I got you both going on.
Oh, there you go.
Double screen experience.
Yeah, you're having the full screen and on radio. There you go. How about that? There, you got all the media going. And on TV, because we're filming for TV today. But go ahead, Melissa.
Super. Well, I was just calling to say that a longtime listener. I've been following Saeed's story almost, from the beginning, and organized a vigil last year and organized one this year for Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and also for Hodgenville. They're only 11 miles apart, but part of the day we're going to be in Elizabethtown, and the last part of the day we're going to go over to Hodgenville and just get our communities together to pray for Saeed and all the persecuted Christians and
you're right.
the other Americans.
Great, and I appreciate, Melissa, I'm sending you our book, Rise of ISIS. I just signed it for you. I'm going to send you that, so tell the operator so we can mail that out to you. But this is exactly what we want to happen, folks, that we're hearing from all over the country. I mean, Logan cannot even keep up with the list of people that are responding from everywhere.
That's right. On Facebook and Periscope, people are chiming in. Like I said, Las Vegas, Nevada. We're having comments from people that really, cities and states you wouldn't even think we're covering it, are covering this. And there are a few people who said, hey, I don't have one in my local area. Well, you can be a part of one still online. If you go to SaeedVigil.com, the first ones on the list are nationwide ones, so you can be part of them on Facebook and social media. There's ways you can still interact to be a part of this if there's not one in your area, but most likely there is.
Yeah. And again, if you're watching later, that's no problem. You can have that. You can organize a vigil at any time, and we encourage you to do that. Let's go ahead and take another phone call here.
Sure, let's take a call. Cindy's calling from Charlottesville, Virginia, with a question concerning the other prisoners who are held right now. So, Cindy, welcome to Sekulow Live.
Hi, Cindy.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
The reason I'm calling, I bless all the people that are putting on the vigils and those that will be participating. I'll be looking for one now.
Great.
But all of this is about Pastor Saeed, and there are 4 individuals, 4 Americans that are there. it's not a criticism, but just a question. Why is it being specifically directed for Pastor Saeed?
Well, we represent. That's a great question. We're not saying we represent, of course, Saeed Abedini, but as you've noticed over the last, do we have a picture of all four of them? There's actually a shot for our Periscope and Facebook friends. There's the four Americans right there. And Cindy, we've encouraged the families to talk about each other. And Jordan, that's one of the things that has been happening over the last, I'd say, 2 months pretty significantly. So when those prayer vigils are taking place, by all means, raise the other Americans. In fact, pray for the persecuted church and those other Americans that we know are being held in jail. Absolutely. But that is over the last 4 months, or 2 months for sure, that you're seeing the families talk about each other much more.
That's right. And
yeah.
We have to be careful. These families, they all have unique backgrounds. They may not specifically endorse this event, but that doesn't mean we can't be in prayer for those other Americans, and certainly that's a part of this. And so we as you said, we represent Saeed, and so in these kind of complicated matters, and this is very complicated, when you're public like this, you have to be very careful to represent our interests of our client, but also to respect the others who have their own representation. But that does not stop everybody from being in prayer. And I think it's pretty clear that for the most part, it seems like these Americans and their release could be a package situation where they would all be released at the same time. It's not 100%, but certainly you could see that happening.
Let me play for you, because since Sarah brought this up, let me play Sarah Hakmati, who's spoke on behalf of her brother. Take a listen.
Our family learned later that our silence allowed Amir to suffer the worst torture imaginable.
This is the problem. The government will tell you, silent, let us work through it. Meanwhile, when you're silent, that gets worse for them. So we want to encourage you to be in prayer for these families, all four Americans, but of course, Saeed, Naghmeh, Rebecca, Jacob. Sign up for a vigil. If you're watching this later on television, have your own vigil. You can organize that as well. Continue this effort until they're released. ACLJ.org or 1-877-989-2255 to sign on to that petition that's now over 1,100,000. The last of our 263 letters go to the UN for delivery Monday when the president of Iran is speaking. Those will be up as well. And again, let me encourage you to support the work of the ACLJ. You could do that by going to aclj.org. You're getting an email from me today about Saeed Abedini's case. We're going to urge you to sign on to that petition for Saeed, but also support the work of the ACLJ. We're about to have a record month here because of your support. We want that to continue at aclj.org and Periscope and Facebook. Thank you for watching the broadcast. Television audience, great having you. Radio as well, and we'll talk to you next week.
American pastor Saeed Abedini has now been imprisoned in Iran for 3 years. 3 years without his family. 3 years of beatings and abuse. This past weekend, millions of people around the globe held prayer vigils for Pastor Saeed, more than 900 vigils in more than 40 countries. This week, the focus is on the United Nations in New York. Among the world leaders in the spotlight, Iran's President Rouhani. The world is watching, and the media asking questions. When will Pastor Saeed and the other imprisoned Americans be returned home? Stand with the American Center for Law and Justice. Keep the pressure on Iran and President Rouhani. Dozens of countries around the globe are advocating for the release of Pastor Saeed. It's time the Obama administration brought these Americans home. Call now 1-877-989-2255. That's 1-877-989-2255, or you can add your name online, aclj.org.